right. So this is my maybe third take on this podcast. I have hit a couple technical glitches again. My computer's a little old and it keeps stopping recording right in the middle of a deep flow state for me. And I felt like I was rushing the podcast. So I am going to redo this one. And I mentioned this on my Insta stories yesterday, but as entrepreneurs, when we hit these frustrating glitches with technology or, not getting the number of clients we want or whatever, it's just a reminder that we are continually building foundations in our business. And for me, this podcast is still very new. So, I am writing lists of like the order of events. A lot of times I film this and then I put it on YouTube and then I edit it into audio and put it on the different podcast platforms. And there's just sometimes this stuff happens and I always give myself a little more time in the timeline to finish projects such as this. Like I slept on it. I'm starting over and that's okay. And that's the lesson to learn is instead of me attempting to push through yesterday when I was hitting a moment of kind of exhaustion from the day and wanting to just rush and finish the podcast, I decided to go run some errands, make myself a nice dinner, relax for the rest of the evening, and get up today because I knew I had time today to work on this. And I'm feeling really good. My notes are way more organized than yesterday, so the flow is going to be so much better. And I refuse to give up, and I refuse to not hit my goals and my timeline. I want to put this podcast out once a week, and I'm still just learning how to build this into my flow of my week. So keep going, keep doing the thing, and don't use these roadblocks to stop you from moving forward. Just practice and practice. So 6 months from now, when I'm doing this podcast, I'm going to have it just plug and play, and it'll be easy and easeful. But right now, I'm still kind of working through. All right, well, I'm excited for this podcast today. It is for my beautiful projector community. However, this is for everyone. If you have a projector friend, a client, a partner, a coworker, you will learn some things in this episode. So I am titling it The Truth About Waiting for the Invitation. So I'm going to focus specifically on the projector invitation today. Now, some things, my beautiful projectors, I want to remind you is you are here to guide the collective experience. You are not a sacral who is here to work. Now that we all have to go to work and do some type of work. And currently, outside of coaching and teaching, my main income source is bartending, which is a labor job, an evening job. But for me, I love people. And so that's what lights me up. And I love the food, and the tourist in me likes the ambiance and the food and the decor of where I work. So things work. When I'm working on my business, I'm not working on it 80 hours a week. I'm doing a really deep work hour here, a little bit of hour there, and then I'm building it out. And when I'm sharing with the clients, a lot of it is the experience I'm bringing to the table, the knowledge of human design, the knowledge of how to run a business. So my projectors, remember, you are here to guide the collective, but that also doesn't mean we all have to go to work. And whatever that is for you, just remember that you get to explore and experiment with this in your job, in your business, in your personal life, and see how this can expand and grow for you. Now, what else is your superpower? You're here to guide the collective. You have the ability to see things that others can't. You probably feel like sometimes when you're at work or like problem solving with friends or family, you're like, don't you all see this is the solution? It's so simple. Or like taking complex things and making them simple, right? And that is part of your superpower. Like the reason that I am so into human design is I love it, and it's helped me gain so much understanding of myself and then sharing out to friends, clients, and family. But what I like to do is distill this huge human design system into something really simple for all of you to understand. So that can be related into whatever you're really good at. That penetrative aura that projectors have can go so deep and see the collective, the person in front of them. Now, when we're talking about waiting for the invitation, I don't want you to think of it as, I'm just going to sit here and wait for the invitation. I can't do anything until I get the invitation to go forward. I mean, when I started experimenting with human design, I was like, oh, if I take an action step towards my business or create a service offering or a product or do this thing, like if it hasn't been formally invited to me, well, it's going to fall flat. And that's not the case. And I'll highlight some of that in a moment. This like 3D has to be invited, has to be verbally said by someone, isn't really how it works. And I want us all to take human design and make it fun and playful and don't get stuck in the confines of what we think it needs to be. We all are our own sovereign being. There's just a way to like really see that you already have invitations, ways to see that, there's some intuitive guidance inviting you in, as well as the world around you. Now, another myth. Just because you're invited doesn't mean you have to say yes or do the thing. So that is discernment for you. So just because someone said start a podcast, or just because someone said you should teach this specific subject or this way, doesn't also mean that that's the next thing for you to do or that it's in alignment for you. The other thing is that I want to bring up that is in regard to the invitation is openly sharing your wisdom. Your wisdom is precious and sacred. So the myth is openly sharing without waiting for the invitation also. Okay, something that I've said before in regards to waiting for the invitation is it is more than just waiting for the invitation. There's a couple layers to this. It is being seen and recognized and then invited. Okay? Now, this plays out in a couple different ways. In regards to someone asking you to teach a class or be on a podcast or share something that you are passionate about or know about, they are seeing and recognizing you for that wisdom and then inviting you in. Now, when that happens, you still get to discern if you want to share your truth or not. Because we all, especially as projectors, but anyone knows healthy boundaries are sacred as well. So being seen and recognized is a huge part of being invited and waiting for the invitation. Another thing is, being seen and recognized and when to take action with the invitation. So I've gotten invitations and not acted on them for 6 months or a year, but I have a log of my invitations, which I'll share with you in a moment, and I'll see that it's already in flow. I just have to find the capacity and the time to add in the invitation or say yes to the invitation. And I will say no to invitations when I'm not being seen or recognized, when I know I might be taken advantage of, when I'm not in alignment with the culture of whatever it is. I say no when it doesn't feel in alignment for me, even though I might be seen and recognized, I still am going to think about it and make my own decision on it. And I typically say yes to a lot of stuff, but I want to put that in there. You need to be seen and recognized and invited into the invitation. Because if you just are invited, you might find some bitterness on the other side because they're not really seeing you for your wise wisdom, or they're not really hearing what you have to say. And that is going to the myth about openly sharing your wisdom. If you're in a group of friends and you want to share your advice, your problems to solve, and you just kind of like spew it out there, you might find that no one's going to be listening. They might get offended. Something I like to do when I'm invited or when I want to be invited in a situation with sharing wisdom with a partner, a friend, a coworker, a boss, a client, I like to prep a question before it. I actually have some thoughts on that. Would you like to hear? Or, oh, I have a great idea. Are you interested? I have found when I speak out of turn, and this isn't about people pleasing to just sit on your hands, but what you will find, I'll get a lot of pushback if I share my wisdom or people won't hear me. Do you want to share this with the collective, with the person you're in front of? And are you going to feel success on the other side, or are you going to be bitter because they're taking the recognition away from you? So sometimes with certain friends or in certain groups or in certain situations, I have a great idea and I won't share it. And I'll save it for someone who wants to hear it. Because I've seen what happens when I say too much and I share too much without being seen and recognized for what I'm about to be invited to share. And all this that I'm sharing with you is me learning, studying, working with clients, experimenting with myself, and distilling this through so you can be like, I didn't think about it that way. I'm going to go experiment with this in my life. What to do in the in-between. What to do when you're like waiting for that big invitation. Maybe you're feeling like your client load is a little low. Maybe you're not inspired to share all the time in your business. Maybe you're just in a moment of kind of quiet internal rest. What to do in the in-between? We want to use this time to create the capacity for what's coming next. This is going to be different for everyone. Are you going to rest? Do you need rest? Are you bitter and burnt out? Is rest a good thing? Do you need to play and be playful and let your inner child flourish and paint or take a walk in nature or dance or kind of get out of your routine? A really great thing for projectors when they're in the in-between and waiting for some more magnetism and kind of energy coming your way. Because remember, you're this lighthouse that the right people kind of magnetize and find you, you know? You don't always have to go like screaming and yelling from the hilltops, come find me. It's about being seen and recognized and creating that lighthouse auric field around you for the right people, places, and things to like come into. So another great thing is to deeply study and learn. For me, it's another human design book or another podcast or talking to a mentor in human design or working with another client and just going so deep in their chart and learning so much more about a manifesting generator and how they work, or a reflector, like for me, because that helps my next client and my next person to share this wisdom with. I also believe like implementing whatever it is that you're working on or testing out and testing. Like take this time to create the capacity to receive bigger invitations, more clients, more community, more service offerings. Like take that time. Don't be like, I got to sprint around this track with the sacrals and keep up. No, slow down. tap in, and then move into action, which is like studying, learning, play, rest, whatever that is for you. Sometimes for me, it's not working on my business for a week, because that is going to bring me back into alignment. Occasionally, I like to sew and create and paint. Being in nature is really great for me. I'm a Taurus sun, so nature is always a part of my experiment. What do we do when the invitation has arrived? Have you been seen and recognized? Are you excited to do the thing? Do you want to do the thing? Do you have the capacity to do the thing? And this it doesn't have to be this formal invitation. So it doesn't have to be like your coach or your friend or your mom or your boss verbally inviting you in. It could be being out in nature and getting a hit of a new service offering. It could be a song that plays on the radio. Like, it can be some intuitive guidance coming through. I think when the invitation falls flat is when we're pushing to do the thing like that other person or the way we think it needs to be. And the invitation, you will find, has been coming your way. But I really feel like the being seen and recognized is huge. Sharing your wisdom is huge. Honoring that where you're at with the level of wisdom that you have is right where it's supposed to be for the invitation right now. So being like, I'm not certified, or I have to take this one more thing before I teach this thing. No, you're being invited because it's where you're at presently to teach, share, coach your community. There's so many more things I want to share. What I want to move into right now is some action steps. These are some things you can implement right now to really see that things are magnetizing toward you and you're just not documenting it. So some things I love to do. I want you to take out a piece of paper, or what I like to do is like a nice big piece of paper for the month, write down my goals for the month, all those things, right? One part of it is, and this could be in your phone too, paper, pretty pens, in your phone, whatever is the way that you move through information. And I want you to write desired invitations. I want you to write 3 to 5 desired invitations that you want to have come through in the next 1 to 4 months. Then I want you to write invitations and leave that blank with maybe like 1 to 4 bullet points blank. And as the month comes through, I want you to write down what invitations are coming through. Ideas, friends, coaches, inspiration, what's coming through. And then I'd also love for you to journal maybe about the last 6 months and what has already come through as an invitation to you. Okay. Now, the other part is the kind of in-between. I want you to ask yourself, what is it I need today? Do I need to rest? Do I need to play? Do I need to learn? What is it? What is it that for you? Do you want to test out a beta service offering to see if it's like making sense? Like, this is what you're doing in the in-between as you're waiting and harnessing the next level of capacity in yourself, in your business. What is one needle moving action step you can take this week towards your visions? How are we going to be seen and recognized? We're going to show up and share. Whether that's going on an IG live, whether that's sharing in your stories, whether that's making a high value reel or a carousel, how are you going to share the service offering, the product, the wisdom that you have to share? So what are you going to do this week for folks to see you in your power? The way that I have organically grown my business is about showing up and sharing about human design, sharing about business, sharing about technology, sharing about my day, being in alignment and getting so many beautiful invitations specifically for my business has been showing up day after day, being seen, being recognized, and getting the invitations that have been in alignment for me. Before 6, so excuse me, my pulse is a little different. My community is my business. I nourish who's in front of me and around me very deeply, and that is where it comes through. The 6, I'm simply showing you how I'm doing it the best way I know how, through years of experience, through years of trial and error, through not giving up. I'm a self-projected projector, so I speak through my throat and I share on this podcast. And when I know I'm ready for a bigger invitation, I implement Rest, Play, Learn, Study. I have recently purchased a whole handful of new human design books and been so excited on the levels of information. I am constantly pushing myself to tweak my website, figure out a podcast on my own. As much as I want to hire out, I love problem solving and I love creating systems to do this. And I love guiding the collective. I love one-to-ones. And I love sharing people's wisdom and gifts that they don't always believe that they have. That was fun. I would love to hear, especially from my projectors, how this all lands. Is there anything that you'd like me to clarify for you? And I'd love to hear some wins. So send me a DM. I hope you're all having a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.